and sisters, to our class here, A Christian's Role in Politics and Serving in a Political Office. My name is Jay Miller. I'm the Associate Pastor here at Victory Baptist Church in Mendota. I'm also the current serving alderman here in Mendota for the 3rd Ward. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about a Christian's role in politics, what we should be doing as a church, and for those who are interested, how to serve in a political position. I want to start out with prayer, so if you could join me quick. Our Father in heaven, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity for this class to share with my brothers and sisters about politics and how it deals with Christianity. I pray that you bless this time and bless this study, Lord. I pray for everybody during this time, during coronavirus, for safety, Lord, and for health. I pray for those who have been suffering from it, Lord, for healing. And I pray for protection upon our land. I pray for our leadership in this country and in our state and our local communities. And I pray for our organization as a whole. May you bless today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, to start out the first half of this class, maybe 5-10 minutes worth, I want to read you from this book. Jesus is involved in politics. You can pick this up if you want a copy of it on Amazon for about $18 for paperback, or you can get the Kindle version. I'm going to read you just a few things to get the class started with some current events of stuff that happened in the last few years that we may not know about and why we should be interested in politics. The author states here, one Sunday morning, your pastor reads a passage in Leviticus which includes, among other things, a section on homosexuality. On Monday morning, the church is sued for hate speech. This happened March 2007. The ensuing legal struggle drains money from your church accounts and forces your pastor to focus on the church's financial survival instead of shepherding. Whether they win the suit or not, those who follow the suit has been effective as they were with Pastor Ake Green in Sweden, who suffered in the same way and was thrown into jail for the same reason. Number 2, you swat your child's hand at the supermarket. As a result, you are arrested but put in prison for 1 year for spanking your child. As California Assembly voted on AB 755, February 2007. Another one. Judges who admit that they will acknowledge God and consider His natural laws in their rulings and interpretations of original laws are fired from their posts. Judicial Inquiry Commission, Alabama, 2003. Same-sex marriage is legalized by 5 California Supreme Court justices, and self-identified homosexuals become protective minors. These Supreme Court justices were appointed or elected to office because of their passivity of Christians. A constitutional amendment to the California Constitution protect marriage and limit it to one man, one woman passed with a majority. But before anyone can celebrate, the same Supreme Court announced plans to overthrow the amendment despite the will of the people. Another judge goes on a witch hunt to overthrow it, even reading emails trying to determine if the authors of the propositions are anti-gay bigots, as if that's relevant after the people have already voted on it. Ironically, the judge turns out to be gay, making one wonder if the proponents of the law's biases are to be considered. Why wasn't his biases also considered? Another judge forces the release of the names and addresses of all donors to the amendments of the proposition. These individuals are harassed and receive death threats. Eventually, the courts override the people's vote and homosexuality becomes a civil rights issue, not a behavioral choice. Shortly thereafter, this one really got me. Listen to this one. Your cousin's church refused to hire a gay man as the youth pastor at the church. Days later, they are slapped with a civil rights discrimination lawsuit, and they see their church bankrupt in legal fees. Your parents have been attending a small church in a prime downtown location for 30 years. Suddenly, their church is sued for not allowing a gay couple to attend their annual marriage couples retreat. Besides the cost of the suit, the church loses its tax deduction. This is stuff that's actually happening today. The congregations wake up one morning to find out since that their tiny downtown church lot is worth millions of dollars, they now have to come up with tens of thousands of dollars each year to pay for the property taxes. To make matters worse, church members find out that they owe all the back taxes to the IRS for the tax deductions that they claimed on their tithing and offerings for that year and previous years. The IRS, run by the Treasury Secretary appointed by the President, has no compassion, and your parents can't come up with the back taxes and have to declare bankruptcy. All these are actual cases that has happened so far in our country. And this is why we should be involved in politics today, because we as Christians can vote on these issues and put people in the office that can sway how this stuff goes. I want to read maybe just two more to get your attention a little bit more on today's issues, and then we're going to move on. A judge rules that homeschooling is illegal unless parents are state-credited tutors. This happened at the Second Appellate Court, Los Angeles County in 2008. This constitutional ruling is not overthrown by the state senators who were elected due to their non-involvement of Christians. As a result, parents who refuse to send their kids to state-approved schools risk losing them to Child Protective Services. I don't know if you know this, but Illinois has a bill right now down in the Illinois Senate. And what it says is that they're trying to remove the religious rights attached to vaccinations. And if it passes, it's going to force kids as young as 6th grade, require them to get the HPV vaccination, and require all the individuals in Illinois to be forced into getting vaccinations. I think that's a serious overstep of religious liberties there. I want to swap real quick over to Dr. James Dobson's Bringing Up Boys. This is a great book. We taught this entire book through a class at our church once. It's great if you're raising kids. His Bringing Up Girls is a great series too. I just want to read you one thing out of here about what's going on in other countries. Alas, he writes, Mr. Bowring and his co-workers lost the fight. The age of consent, sexual consent, in the United Kingdom was lowered to the age of 16. It is lowered to the age of 14 in Canada, 15 in Sweden, 15 in France, 14 in Germany, Iceland, Italy, and San Marino. And it's as low as 12 in Spain. By the way, California just passed a bill where the age of consent is down to 12 in that state as well. I mean, I think we are just losing our minds in America today. So these are issues that we need to be focused on and involved in. And this is how we can do it. First off, your vote matters. Let me read you one more section of this other book, Jesus in Politics. Here's a quote by David Barton. He says, Congress never reflects the values of the nation. It only reflects the values of those who voted in the last election. They write here that in 2004, 122 million voted in the general election. George Bush won that year by 3 million votes. In 2006, only 96 million voted. Karl Rove even noted to me that the Republican House majority was lost by only 3,000 votes. In 2004, almost 28.9 million evangelicals voted and voted biblical values, and consequently 78% of the new senators and 63% of the new representatives who came to Washington that year was pro-life. We made a difference. However, In 2006, only 20.5 million evangelicals, 8.4 million less Christians voted that year. That year, only 10% of the new senators, and only 31% of the new representatives were pro-life. In the 2 years following the 2004 election, most of the key pro-family positions passed in many states. In years after the 2006 elections, some of the worst anti-family and anti-biblical laws were passed by the U.S. Senate and House, with up to 39 million of us sitting on the sidelines. Presidential and Senate races were being won or lost by a few 100,000 votes here or there in key states, and only by 200 votes in Florida in the year 2000. Now I could go on and on with examples, but I want to point out one thing here about why your vote matters. He says here, in many elections, campaigns spend over $1 billion to try and convince those without conservative convictions to vote for conservative candidates. They target the independents, those without convictions, and they often feel miserably at this. Yet, there are really 30 million plus Christians who don't vote. Wouldn't it be easier and cheaper to target them specifically and get them to vote, rather than to get those who hate your values to vote for you? After all, it's a lot easier and cheaper to convince someone who agrees with your values but doesn't vote to just change their mind about voting than it is to convince someone who violently disagrees with your values, change their mind about their values, and vote for you. He continues and says, I asked someone who knew some of the inner workings of a campaign. He said, why do these campaigns blow all their money advertising on ABC, CNN, and other independent sources instead of targeting Christians, which would actually cost less and work better? His answer simply, well, professional campaigns get paid 10 to 15% of what is spent on advertising. If you spend $1 billion, you collect $150 million in commission without very much work. So why hassle with advertising that's a lot more work but doesn't make you as much money? Campaigns are built on money nowadays and not targeting the right people. Like he said, 30 million Christians are on the sidelines, and their vote matters in everything. Who we put into office, especially presidential office or for states' governors, they decide who goes on the next who's the next judge for the Supreme Court to make decisions. Their appointments matter. So we need to start using those votes for Christian values, people with Christian values to get into office, to make appointments of people, other people who hold Christian values. By now, you are probably tired of me reading from books, so I'm just going to throw them to the sideline. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the core of this class, running for political office. First off, I want to answer a quick question as I lead into that. Was Jesus himself involved in politics? And the answer is clearly yes. As if we read through the Gospels, we see Jesus constantly talking about matters of the state. The question where he answers, pay to Caesar what is Caesar's, that is a political response. Jesus constantly tries to put moral values and tries to influence politicians of his time. If you research out the New Testament and how Jewish society is set up, in the Old Testament they had a theocracy where God literally was the king. Deuteronomy 33:5, 1 Samuel 8:7 declares God is the king. And in the Old Testament, he set up three roles. The prophet who spoke for God, the priest who spoke for the people to God, and then eventually an earthly king that reflected the ultimate king in heaven. And that's how that system worked. But by Second Temple era and New Testament times, the system has changed, and the politicians that we see in the New Testament is the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They are the ones that not only are these priests and moral teachers of the land, but they also are the ones that are controlling the legislative body of Israel. And they weren't put there by a vote. So we don't see Jesus running for office, but we often see him encountering these Pharisees and constantly asking them questions and trying to have them change their moral standing points on the questions being asked. So Jesus was really involved in politics as well. So that's why I think Christians should be involved in politics. Why did I get involved in politics? A few reasons. I went to NIU many years ago, and I was studying economics there. And I ended up getting economics and a business degree from Lincoln College. Later on, I transferred out, and God equips me for what's going to happen in the future. I use that now more than anything else in the jobs I currently possess, especially as being an alderman. Although you do not need those degrees to fulfill that position, it definitely helps. But while I was at NIU, I was studying economics and pre-law, and there was another guy there that I became close friends with, and he wanted to be a politician, and he kind of sparked my interest in this. And then, a few years later, after I graduated, Franklin Graham went on a tour. I hope you can see it up here. I'm sorry if there's a little glare. The Decision America tour. And he asked people to get involved in local government, to get involved as an alderman, or to get involved in your school board. And if we can change stuff from the lower levels, it will eventually trickle into the upper levels. And I really took that conviction to heart, and I decided, hey, why don't I go ahead and run for office and see where it gets me? Maybe God's calling me to that. I prayed over it, and I shared it with a meeting with a lot of you brothers at a Fox Valley Baptist meeting. Especially something that touched me a lot was something by Pastor Michael Kangai. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. He shared a quote from Martin Luther at that meeting that really touched me, and went along the lines as this. Martin Luther said, "It is great to impact the world with Bible and doctrine, but if we don't if we don't address the current situations in our culture, we might lose that generation." So this is me trying to get into the culture and trying to make a change with this generation. Some things that prepared me for this, yes, I had a little bit of schooling in this area, but that's not required. But one thing I do suggest, what I did for a few years is I became an election judge. Real easy, you sign up at the county clerk's office, and an election judge is pretty much the person who works the polling booths, and you get to know the system a little bit like that. And another benefit is they pay you a little bit for it as well. So you get the experience there. Eventually, I started campaigning to be an alderman in my community. And this comes with a cost. I think I spent roughly $1,000 making up signs to put out around town. And I used a little bit of that money to build a website right here. jhmiller.com. I hope you can see it up here. I'm going to go through this in a minute. And I did flyers, and me and my wife went door to door and met residents here. And a lot of people in my town wanted fresh blood in office. They were tired of the same old people, is the consensus that we got. And of course, if you're going to do any of this, make sure you get your wife's backing. That's very important. If she ain't with you for running, then it's not worth it. You both have to be on the same page. Well, I ran and I lost. I lost by only 12 votes. And I was a little sad, but then I remembered that Abraham Lincoln lost a couple times when he ran for government offices, but he eventually ran. So I kept pushing forwards, and I kept praying. And I said, maybe God's saying it's not the right time yet. And I believe that. I believe in time, God was still pushing me towards that position. And by the time I got to the next election cycle, 2 years later, I won that election. And now I've been in office for 2 years now, and I think I've made a lot of difference. And I'm going to take you through some of those points. If you want to run for office like this, what would you have to do? First off, you would have to find out what type of government your city has. You can look this up on Wikipedia, as I have up here. There's something called the weak mayor form and the strong mayor form. Here in Mendota, we have the strong mayor form, where the mayor holds most of the power, and the council, the other 8 aldermen, make up the legislative body and votes on bills that will eventually become city ordinances. But most of the authority is in the mayor's hand. If your city has a weak mayor form of government, then all the power sits within the city council, and the mayor is basically just a figurehead and doesn't have much power. He's a figurehead of your city, much like today in England, how the legislative parliament over there holds most of the power, and the Queen of England is just the figurehead of the country. If you want to apply for office, you go down to the city clerk's office, and they have most of the information you need down there. You have to start the year before the election in September and pick up a form from them and get it signed by 35 people within the ward you're running in. And that's just to say, hey, you have backing and support of people that want you in office, and you submit that along with some financial statements to the county clerk's office, and that gets you on the voting ballot. Then you can start your campaigning. That stuff was due by December. By the following year, in April, is when the general election was, and our general election was in. I did the paperwork in 2017, and our general election was in 2018, and now I've been in office for 2 years. Once you get elected, you might be like, I don't know very much about this. I'm a little bit lost. What do I do? It's okay. They got you covered. As soon as I got elected, I got contacted by a few people, and you'll get a bunch of stuff in the mail too of people wanting your attention to get help with your position. The first big thing I got in the mail, and what's really helped me, was a law firm called Miller, Hall & Triggs out of Peoria. And they had a free luncheon that I went to on a Saturday shortly after I got elected. And at that luncheon, they described a lot of what the position was about, and they hand out for free these handbooks, which covers a lot of regulations of how to do your office, what to do, what not to do, how to file stuff. So this is a big help right here. And most likely law firms will reach out to you and give you this stuff for free. Also, automatically, upon getting elected, I got enrolled in the Illinois Municipal League, the IML. And you can look them up online. You can just type in IML in Google, and they'll show you a bunch of information on that, so you can get a lot of background research before you think about running for office. Okay, down to it. When I got into office, the first thing that happened was the mayor appointed me to a committee. We got 2 aldermen per ward here. Our town's small, so we only have 4 wards. Your town might be huge. You might have 18, 20 wards, so your council might be a lot bigger than us here. But our committees usually consist of 3 people, a chair and 2 other people on it. And I struggled with this. The mayor appointed me to licenses. And I'm coming from a Christian background, and now I'm in charge of all the alcohol license in town. And this this was a little bit of a struggle, but God put me there for a reason. What started happening right away after I got in is gaming really started to take off in this state. The electronic games, the not video games, but you know what I'm talking about?
Slot machines.
Yeah, it's like video slot machines. You see them now in bars and gas stations all over the place, and they were really starting to become huge and popular. But in order to get those, and everybody wants them because they make a ton of money off them, especially here in LaSalle County, in order to get those, you have to have a liquor's license. So that was a big strain on me. And of course, I allowed applications at first because legally they can have up to so many according to state law. You can't deny them that. But there was a situation here in Mendota. We only have one grocery store, and they wanted to put video gaming in there as well. And that means that they could open serve alcohol in the grocery store with kids present. And we had to make a stand on that. I called the congregation together. I talked to Pastor Steve, the senior pastor here, and a lot of us came down to a public hearing at City Hall and talked out against this. And not just us, but a lot of the public talked out against this as well. And there is an article in the Mendota Reporter and News Tribune about this. Right here, as you can see, opinions is that Mendota has enough liquor licenses, and we were able to restrict the liquor licenses and limit some of this gaming. And me and another alderman today have actually denied a lot more gaming license since then, limiting it, because that really is a tragedy. I know a few people personally who gambling is their struggle, and they go out and they blow their entire paycheck on these video gambling machines. So the less we can have that, the better. The next major thing that I did, even before I even got appointed to a commission, and then a committee, and after I was appointed to commission, is I checked in with every single department. I made that my priority. I checked in with the Civic Center, the Fire Department, the Water Department, the police station, just all over the place, city and streets, and I wanted to see and ask them what were their needs and how can I serve you. And I think that's the Christian thing to do. Jesus was all about serving others, so I wanted to see, hey, what was it that you need that can make your job easier? And one of the biggest issues that I found was at the fire department. Most cities, the standard is however many police officers you have the same amount staffed at the fire department. But that wasn't true here. In our city, we have about 15, 16 police officers. We only had 4 full-time firefighters staffed up. So that was a big issue, and I really pushed in meetings to kind of equalize that and get more firefighters hired on, and that eventually happened. Right here is an article of one of the new firefighters who got to join the fire department, Dalton Huftel, I'm sorry, bad with names, forgive me, was hired to the Mendota Fire Department, and we've been trying to make improvements since then. So I've really tried to help improve the city extremely through safety standards. If you take a look at my website, jhmiller.com, what I did is, on the website here, you can read a little bio about me for when I was campaigning, and afterwards, everything I promised during my campaign, as it's been fulfilled, as I'm fulfilling these promises and trying to make a change, I tried to list it here on my website, and I often put links to the articles where people can see those changes happening. So I tried to really stick to what I promised, which is a good Christian thing to do. Mendota was really hurting for business. That was another key thing. And I was part of two key bids into town. ADM built a new flour mill, one of the biggest flour mills in Illinois, right outside of town here in Mendota, and that brought 100 jobs to the area. And then Star of Rock Wood Projects, Star of Rock Wood Products is a new business that came to town. They started down by Utica and they expanded here, and that brought a lot more jobs to town as well. The big thing is coronavirus. Everybody's talking about that, and we made some key changes there as well. I was part of the team that helped pass the first ever state of emergency ordinances for Mendota. If we had a severe tornado or some type of crisis or anything like that was going on, we had no laws on the books that gave us power to enforce procedures to help keep people safe. Safety was one of my big campaign points, and I'm proud that we were able to pass that. We made another ordinance here for occupancy permits for businesses, for people to be safe, and they've been trying to get this onto the books for 15 years, and I'm happy to be part of the team that finally got that passed here in Mendota. And safety-wise, when I went campaigning, one of the biggest things I asked people was, what is your needs and what would keep the town safe and what would benefit you? And the biggest thing I heard was traffic signs. We had many uncontrolled intersections in this town, and I got traffic signs put up on 15 different intersections, all down 3rd Avenue, and then the following year on 2nd Avenue as well. So I really was pushing towards safety in our town as well. I kind of skipped over, I skipped over coronavirus. Yes, we got that first state of emergency on the books, but also the biggest debate right now is over masks. Everybody's fighting over masks, and I want to say something about that quickly. Let's keep our focus on the gospel. If masks works, or if masks don't work, just wear them. Head to church. We can survive an hour in mass for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of making other people feel comfortable, for the sake of them hearing a life-changing message. Paul did the same thing when he talks in 1 Corinthians about people sacrificing meats to idols. And he says, hey, if I don't eat meat and that causes others to hear the gospel more, so be it. So that's what I want to say about that. As far as masks go, legally though, I did vote upon legislation that required masks in our town. And I was convicted by one of the other aldermen. He stated this: if we all did the most we could do, maybe the numbers would have been lower. If you didn't know, Mendota recently went through a huge outbreak here, and I believe a lot of that was because a lot of people in town just did not want to do what was recommended. We didn't do much social distancing here. A lot of people didn't wear masks, stuff like that. And I voted for mask wearing in the town and measures that hopefully, I believe, led to the numbers dropping lately. Unfortunately, we canceled the Corn Fest. The Corn Fest is one of the biggest things here in Mendota. It's a festival that draws thousands of people in and impacts businesses, but we didn't want people coming in and not social distancing during this pandemic, and this is the first time in history that the council's ever voted to cancel the Corn Fest. So something historic, something a little sad, because our town often really looks forward to that. That's a few of the things I've done so far in office. Again, your challenges might be different where you're at, but try the best you can to vote with your Christian values. Bring it to office. If we start changing these councils and school boards, Christian values will be promoted in your area. Here on my website, if you visit it, I just want to point out a few more things. I have a tab here. Oh, it's loading very slow. Oh, there it goes. Name objectives. I clearly outlined while I was campaigning everything I stood for. I think there should be transparency. I think people should be very clear about what they stand for. So I put that right out there for the public to read on my website. And when I was campaigning, let me add this, I did not attack the opponent. I think that's a horrible way to campaign. I think we should always be lifting each other up. Ephesians talks about we should always have good speech, building other people up. So I didn't talk much about my opponent. I talked about the points I was running on. And I never said anything negative about it. When I lost the first time by 12 votes, I put on my Facebook page and into the public that I was happy for my opponent, that I was praying for my opponent, and that I hope that God uses him in a mighty way and blesses him as well. And God, I believe, honored that, and next cycle I got elected. Another thing that you might want to do in your area, when I was campaigning, a lot of people asked me, where do I go to find stuff out? Where do I go for help? So I decided to list a resource page here on my website, and if you're building one, maybe you would think about that too. This lists all the city websites, all the schools information, and then this is key right here. I put a section in called local help, you know, for bill assistance, for addictions, for counseling, the food pantries. We got a place here in town that helps with medications and costs, homeless shelters. We have a clinic called Abigail's Women's Center that is pro-life, and that helps women that's pregnant. We got a chaplain in town here that deals with people that are debating suicide. So I put all this up here because a lot of people didn't know where to get this information. And this is people in need. And I believe that after talking with a lot of people, this made it easy, one-stop shop for them to find what they needed. And I think that's one of our responsibilities, to connect the people we represent with the services that they need. And then, along with objectives, I got a view tab as well here, my views on government and stuff like that, more bio information. But again, you can design your website how you want. These are just suggestions for you while campaigning. We're coming to the end here, and I want to not leave out my beautiful wife here, who's going to say a few things. She's been behind me through all of this, and I think she's going to talk a little bit about our home life and what it's like while I've been in office and at meetings and stuff like that. I want her to come up for a few minutes and just pour her heart out to you. Then I'll be back up here to continue on with a few more things. Amber, come on up.
Brothers and sisters, I thank you for letting us come and speak to you today about just Christians and politics. And with me being married to Jay through all of this, just one big thing I like to mention is women, just stand by your husbands. There's going to be hard times where they may have meetings 3 times a week. You have to stand by them, keeping the kids quiet, just doing whatever you need to do to support him and back him up.
Okay. Thank you, love. She's not much of a public speaker, but I love her. Love you, babe. That's pretty much it. I know that we didn't get to meet in person to talk about a lot of issues. You might have a lot of questions about serving this area, and I can't communicate everything through just a video chat here, but I do want to help you guys out. So here's some resources for you. If you want, you can email me, j@vbcmendota.com. Victory Baptist Church, Mendota. That's my email. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And I'll put up here the church number. (815-539-9081) is the phone for the Victory Baptist Church here. I'm here all throughout the week. I'm also a school teacher in our Christian school, which is in the same building. So I'm available all throughout the week. If you have any questions, you're welcome to call me here as well, and I'll be happy to assist you. That's pretty much all I got for this session. Thank you for watching, and let's close quick in prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for all the people who have watched this sessions at the conference, Lord, on getting involved in politics or possibly running for a political office. I pray for all the Christians who are doing Christianity in the hard places, Lord, in tough environments, in environments that they might even be persecuted, Lord. And I pray for their safety. I pray for their effectiveness. I pray that the gospel is furthered. And I am just thankful for people taking interest in this and wanting to serve. Guide them and bless them in their calling. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Thank you guys for watching.